Hello, everyone. It's Rafael Gutierrez, and a lot has happened this last week. One of the things that did happen is, if some of you are actually watching, the MMA fighter Kimbo Slice passed away from heart failure. Now, a lot of times there are actually a lot of things that people hear something like this and they think, well, here's a 42-year-old man who looked at least relatively healthy. How did he end up having heart failure? And that is what I'm going to talk about today. The other thing is, I've been running across a couple questions on going to Okinawa, going to different countries to train, and how expensive it is, how cheap it is. And I'm actually going to tell you that depending on your budget, you can actually make a lot of different trips. Now, I'm going to deal with Okinawa because it's where I tend to go for training. And the truth is, one of the first things that you need to do when you are going to any place to train is, if at all possible, try to find who you're going to train with beforehand. Now, what I mean is, a lot of times you may have some connections with Okinawa from your dojo. Sometimes you can actually go to different websites. There's the Traditional Okinawan Karate Kabuto Liaison Bureau, and you can actually find them and ask them if they can help set up a meeting. The dojo bar also, when you're there, they can actually tell you certain people that you might want to try to go to. One of the things that does happen, and again, I'm going to use Okinawa, is a lot of times you do have some people who are really famous, and so they have tons of, just a lot of students coming in at all given times, and sometimes that may be a good thing because they're used to dealing with foreign students come in, but it may also be something that's not quite the best thing for you because you are now dealing with a lot of other students. The other thing is, sometimes you don't know if the organization you're part of is actually on good terms as with one of the organizations in Okinawa. And so a lot of times they may teach you, one of the things my experience at least has been in Okinawa is most people are willing to teach you everything and anything they can, but you have to remember there's time and there sometimes is are you going to join part of our organizations or aren't you? Now, there are some schools, like I said, they don't really care. They're really interested in teaching their art and preserving karate as a whole. The other thing, though, that is important is to know who you're going to go see, because one of the big things that you really want to do is bring gifts. And usually you want to bring for a couple people. Now, when I go, I try to buy as many gifts as I can to be able to give to the head instructor, a couple friends I now have down there, and I try to get something for everyone. Sometimes in a hurry, I will end up leaving a bag home and forget gifts for about 3 people, and you do have duty-free shops, you can go there. It's good to know who you are actually training with, because some of the people really like certain things. So for instance, if you know that the person you're training with likes bourbon, for instance, you can actually get them a good bottle of bourbon and they'd be really happy saying, okay, well, this person actually gave me something that I'm going to use. You also want to bring gifts for the entire dojo. So what I would usually suggest is, here in San Diego, California, and a lot of different places, we have See's Candy. So I usually like to pick up a box of See's Candy for the dojo, because that way everyone can share from something, and it's just something you can give them. The other thing you actually do want to do is, you do want to actually bring some sort of nice looking envelope, because you do want to, even though some people say, oh no, don't worry about it, you can usually find out how much money people give them as gifts. So for instance, if you're there for a week and you have a lot of times you'll have an instructor who takes time to, I actually have one instructor who trained me in this last time every day for 3 to 4 hours a day, just one-on-one training me and him. And so I asked around, and someone gave me a number for how much I should. He didn't tell me to give him anything, he didn't do, but I figure, he spent a lot of time with me, I should give something. Even if it's a token gift, it's at least something you can give them. The dojo I go to, I also give a little financial gift. Again, it's a lot of times it's because I feel like I'm getting a lot out of it, so I figure I have to help out the dojo. Now, how much does it cost to go to Okinawa? Now, big thing is it's a good thing to actually talk to someone, and that who talk to who you think you're going to be training with, and that way you can talk about the proximity, because like I said, sometimes you will have people in the school who will say, look, you come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll teach you what I can. A lot of times these guys are retired, and sometimes you don't realize who these people are until you start talking to people, and then they're like, oh, you trained under I won't give names. If you really want to know, you can go on the website. But a lot of these people who are in books, who were actually with the founder of Styles, are still alive, and they're all willing to teach you. So a lot of times you can actually learn with these people who, the way they look, it seems, at least to me, it seems like a lot of these people are retired from other jobs, and they do this as a hobby, and for them it's something fun. But still, I mean, think about if someone came to your city and you decided to spend your time with them. Uh, think about what you would want as a gift, as just someone to show you appreciation. The other thing, probably the most expensive thing that I've actually run in on going to Okinawa is flights. And now with all the websites that you can get cheaper and cheaper flights, you can find some amazing deals. My last trip, I paid, I think it was $540 exactly. I always say 500 because I figure, drop off the 40, it doesn't matter. But I'm talking about $500 round trip from LA. I live in San Diego, but I had to drive to LA, and from LA to Okinawa and back round trip, $500. So you can find really great deals depending on when you're going. The other next thing that can be expensive is accommodations. So, for instance, where you're going to be living, where you're going to be pretty much living is the biggest thing, and that's one of the things to actually look at. And I've actually found the hotels. You do have some really amazing hotels in Okinawa where everything's pristine, perfect, and you feel like you're in a resort. Now, if you're going to train, that may not necessarily be what you're looking for. There are also hostels in Okinawa which you can find, which are going to be cheap. You're going to get a bed, and you may have to rent a locker. Again, I am lucky that the school I go to, when I go there, they help me out a lot. I mean, there's people who have let me stay in their homes. There's people who have picked me up to get me food. I mean, it's for me, my experience. I get the feeling that if you have a connection in Okinawa, it's pretty similar to most people's, but they really do make you feel like family when you're part of that group. I call them my Okinawan family a lot of times. So that's going to vary, and if you think of a hostel, you can usually find really good prices for it depending on the time you go. The other thing that that can end up getting expensive when you're there is food. Now again, food actually varies a lot. You could end up going to one of the stores where I was staying. There was a store called Co-op, COOP, and you could pick up ramen for breakfast and lunch whenever you were hungry, something like a snack. You could also, if you were hungry, you could pick up a bento box, and I think it ranged anywhere from $3 to $5. So it's not something that was going to break the bank, and it's enough food for someone who weighs over 200 pounds. So food, with that you actually are covered. Again, always remember that if you are training in a dojo, you are a guest, and as such, you really do want to show your appreciation for everything that they're giving you. Now, if you guys are interested in more about Okinawa and how to get there, how to anything, I'm more than willing to answer questions. There's a lot of websites that will tell you how to do it. It really is a great place, and there's a gentleman I remember meeting, great man. He's one of the 10th dans in the U.S. who's recognized in Okinawa. Merriman Sensei made a comment that if you're wearing a white karate gi, you have to go to Okinawa if you really want to pick up the essence of it. And there's a lot of places you want to go, which will actually let you understand more about the philosophy of the art you're looking at. And some of them are not necessarily areas that you would think of as karate. For instance, caves at Idaman are a really good place to go. The Tsushimamura Museum, another great place to go. The Peace, the Cornerstone of Peace, it's a great place you have to go. And these aren't necessarily directly connected to karate as we see it, but when you start going to these places, a lot of times you end up getting a feel for it. Obviously, you're going to want to go to Shurijo Castle. I would actually recommend going to any of the Issa festivals, any of the festivals if you're there. I actually like Issa. I've actually seen the bullfighting, which I mentioned in my book, How to Do It Right, Serious on the Rarest Things. The bullfighting there is really, really interesting, really amazing. I would recommend going to see it. It's a different type of experience. And with that, I'm going to talk about heart failure. Now, I'm going to use my book. I have a new version, which is a little better. I edited a lot of things. And what we really want to talk about first what I'm going to talk about is what heart failure is. Pretty much we have the heart. Here's a picture. And the way the heart works is this. It has a specialized type of muscle called striated cardiac muscle. And inside it's lined with what's known as epithelial tissue. And what happens is as your heart pumps, I'm trying to find a good picture. This will work. Your heart pumps, blood from the right atrium goes to the right ventricle. Now, you're always looking at it in the anatomical position, so I'll hold it here so it looks like if it's my heart, it's small for me. So from the right atrium, it goes to the right ventricle. The right ventricle pumps and goes to the lungs. In the lungs, it picks up oxygen and then goes to the left atrium, which is here. From the left atrium, it goes to the left ventricle, and the left ventricle pumps and pushes it through something called the aorta, which feeds the rest of the body. Now, I talked about one time how much of the blood goes to the brain, which is about 25 to 30%. The rest of it goes to feed muscles, organs, everything else. So you have the blood moving oxygen and nutrients everywhere. Now, cardiovascular system is dependent on diet, exercise, and some genetic factors. Now, I cannot say what caused Kimbo Slice heart failure because I don't have his medical records, and that's really the only way to tell. But what I can tell you is certain things that we do know. Now, one of the things that we have found is African Americans have a higher incidence of heart failure and heart-related problems than the rest of the population. Now, the reasons why can vary. One of them may be, it can vary from anything from social economics, it can vary from stress, it can vary from, we don't know. It can also be that a lot of research isn't really necessarily done specifically on African Americans. So when we see the deaths of young African Americans from heart failure, it may be that they're not getting treated for heart failure as much for a variety of reasons. But someone like Kimbo Slice, it may have been that as he was a professional athlete, if you look at him, he looked like a strong, healthy individual. People may not have been able to tell what was happening inside his body. Now, heart failure, what it is your heart is no longer able to pump blood to sustain all the systems working. And so what happens a lot of times is there's a backup. Now, you can't have two types of heart failure. You can have right-sided heart failure, or you can have left-sided heart failure. Now, if it's right-sided heart failure, what usually happens is you end up getting congestion, you end up getting problems breathing, fluid in the lungs, and eventually it can lead to death. On right and left-sided heart failure, you end up having the ability to pump to other areas of the body not necessarily work as much. Now, the left-sided is usually a little more common. Now, what we know for sure causes left-sided heart failure really has to do with blood pressure, which is in many ways related to atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis just means the arteries, the vessels that are leaving your heart to feed your body, become harder and stiffer. As they become harder and stiffer, that means that they can't expand and contract the way they normally could. And so what you end up happening is, instead of being able, if you think about it, if you have an artery that can open or close, if you need blood to go to a certain area, you can open it, so you maintain the pressure and increase the blood flow. Now, if you can't do that, you end up just increasing the pressure, which ends up going back into the heart. causing eventually a point where the heart will fail. Now, what causes atherosclerosis? Number one thing is diet. We know that diets that are high in fats are going to cause more atherosclerosis. We also know that sedimentary lifestyles, which I think we can all agree that Kimbo Slice probably wouldn't classify as sedimentary. There are a lot of other factors that can deal with this, and so that is one of the big things. If you are interested in knowing about heart failure, I would tell you to consider taking a health class so you can actually talk more about it. There are certain infections, there are certain habits such as smoking can end up causing atherosclerosis, which could end up leading to heart failure. But again, without knowing everything that happened, everything that led up to it, a lot of people can't really say what it was that caused heart failure. What we do know is that yes, we do know that African Americans tend to suffer from heart failure at a younger age than the normal population, and it may actually be due to people not checking as much. It's sad to say it like that, but a lot of times people may look at someone, especially an athlete, and think he's an athlete, his heart's fine, and that's a problem. So now with that, I'm going to stop. Hopefully you enjoy this, and let me know if any questions arise. Let me know what you think of these videos, and anything I might be able to answer. Thank you for your time.